Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me? If you can hear me, if you can hear me, put a comment in the chat. If you guys can hear me, can you put it? Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Yesterday we started the training yesterday, and we did talk about we did an introduction about me and also introductions to the course. So when I was watching the video yesterday, I discovered that there was a lot of glitches and there was a lot of things that I was doing that people could not understand or they could not see with my screen. So because of this, we take down yesterday videos. So I'm going to be summarized and redo everything we did yesterday. So if you are joining us for today, you are joining us for the first time, you do not miss a lot. And for those people that joined yesterday, whatever I did yesterday, I'll be redoing them today. I'll be recapturing everything today so that we don't miss anything. So today I'm going to start with sharing of my screen. Let me know if you can see my screen. Please put a comment in the chat if you can see my screen. And you guys say you cannot hear my audio. Can you hear me now? Can you guys hear me now? Let's put a comment in the chat if you can hear me. Okay, you can hear me now. All right. I'm sorry, but I will quickly recover. I will quickly recap what I did when I lost audio. So I was differentiating between Debians. I was differentiating the. I was stating the difference between the Debian family and the Red Hat family. One of the difference between the Red Hat family and the Debian family are the how you download packages. How you download packages means how you install software on the server that is running either Debian's family or the Red Hat family. If you have a server that is running on Debian's family, the command to download a software on server that is running on Debian's family is apt install or apt. If you are running on Red Hat family, majority of them, the command to download software is yum install. So this is one of the difference between the Debian family and the Red Hat family. Also, another difference between the Red Hat family and the Debian family is the support and maintenance. Debian is supported and maintained by the community, which means it is an open source. So anybody that have a good knowledge of writing code can write or can create a better version of Debian software and release it to the public. But for the Red Hat family, it's mainly not an open source, it's a paid version. So the support and maintenance is primarily commercialized, meaning that it is being done by a paid people, which is Red Hat maintains the Debian distribution. So mostly all the Red Hat family, they are more paid version, commercialized version. So the support and maintenance is different from the Debian. Then another thing that differentiates the Red Hat and the Debian is the stability. For instance, the Debian family, because it's a open source version, which is being supported by the community, it only has 2 years of support, meaning that when the new version comes out, then the old version will be supported for 2 years. Then after that, it will not be supported again. But for the Red Hat, it has 10 years of support because it is a paid version. There is a community, or there is a commercial enterprise, or there is a commercial company or a particular company supporting it. So there is tendency that even if a new version comes out today, the old version will still be supported for the next 10 years, after which it might not be supported again. But the Red Hat family has a better support and better stability than the Debian family. So before we go into the hands-on, yesterday I told us how to, the terminal that we're going to be using for this training is going to be Visual Studio Code, and I also show us how to download Visual Studio Code yesterday. But today I'm going to also show us again, and in fact I'm going to download the Visual Studio Code. Also, another platform or another tools that we are going to be using for this training is Git Bash, and I'm also going to show you how to download the Git Bash and how to link it together with the Visual Studio Code. The reason for the Git Bash is because if you are running Linux command on Visual Studio Code, there are some Linux commands that are not supported on Visual Studio Code. So you might be getting some error messages. So in order to avoid this, we're going to be running the terminal on Visual Studio Code using Git Bash engine. So that is the purpose, or that is the reason why we're going to be downloading the Visual Studio Code. Also, we are going to be needing an AWS account. I'm not going to be creating an AWS account here. I will link I'll put a link below in the comment section on how to download an how to create an AWS account. But I already have an AWS account that I'm going to be using for this training. So to download an AWS account, I'm going to go to, to download a Visual Studio Code, I'm going to go to the Visual Studio Code website, which is code.visualstudiocode.com. Then I'm going to download for Windows because I'm using Windows system. I'm going to be downloading for Windows. So download for Windows, I'm clicking on Windows, then I'll wait for it to download. Once it's finished downloading, I'll see the download in my download folder, or I can just double click on it here. Then I will read the instruction, then accept the agreement. Continue clicking on yes. If you already have a Visual Studio Code downloaded before on your system and you delete it, you will be having this error. It's just showing you that you already have a file created for Visual Studio Code before. So I will just click yes to continue installing it without minding the error. Then click on next. If I want a shortcut of the Visual Studio Code on my desktop, I'll click on create a desktop icon. Then click on next. Click on install. Now that the Visual Studio Code has successfully downloaded, I'll just click on finish. So the Visual Studio Code will automatically launch on your system. But if it doesn't launch on on your system, you can go to your desktop and open it. Now we have Visual Studio Code on our system. Go into this triple dots and click a terminal, then click on new. Because this is a Windows system, so it's going to open the terminal using Git bash. Using PowerShell. It's going to open the terminal with PowerShell. So I don't want this. I can change the engine of the terminal from here. But if you do not have Git bash installed on your system, you will not be seeing this default. So the first thing you need to do is to go and download Git bash and install it. If you want to download Git bash, just go to the official website of the Git bash, which is called gitscm.com, and install the version for your system, which is download window and install for 64-bit for Git window. So once it is fully downloaded, then you install it. So because I already have it on my system before, so it's showing me that it already exists, but I will just click here to override the one that I have before. So I install a new one. Then install it. Now that we have the Visual Studio Code and the Git badge downloaded, the next thing is to configure both of them. So I need to go to my Visual Studio Code, then go to the File, Preference, and Settings. Then click on this file here. So by default, I already have the Visual Studio Code configured on my system. So the next thing for me to do is just to open Terminal. Ensure to save this if you modify. If you do not see Git bash here, if there's something else, maybe like PowerShell, then if you change it to Git bash, make sure you save it before you close the page. Now we have the Visual Studio Code and we have the Git bash engine. The next thing is to open Terminal with our Visual Studio Code. Now we have the Visual Studio Code open with Git bash engine. If it is not Git bash engine, you will not see it colored like this because it is open with Git bash engine. And here you can also see that it is Git bash. It's not using PowerShell. So now our system, our Visual Studio Code is ready for the code. It's ready for the training. So the next thing I want to do now is to go to the AWS account and connect to my server. So I've connected to my AWS account. Then if I want to use the server on AWS account, I need to go to EC2, which is an instance of VM on AWS accounts. I already have a server running, but if you do not have a server running before, maybe you are joining me for the first time, go to Launch. And put the name of your server. I'm going to name my server YouTube 2. Then select an operating system. These are different versions of the operating system that AWS provide for us. But for this training, I'm going to be using Amazon Linux 2. Then select Amazon Linux 2. Leave every other settings as default, apart from the key. Go to the key and create a new key. Then I'm going to name the key to YouTube key. I'm going to name it YouTube key 2, and I'm going to create it. Once you create a key, it is a pair of key that will be created for you. One of the key will be downloaded on your desktop, while the other one will be stored on the server. Anytime you want to connect to the server, you need to present the one that was downloaded on your desktop together with the command that you are using to connect to the server, which I'm going to be showing you soon. Leave everything the way it is. For me, I'm going to be changing this, but for your own, if you are doing this on your own, leave everything the way it is, because I have modified some settings here. So that is why I'm going to be editing this. But for you, you don't need to change anything. Just leave it the way it is, and it should work perfectly. Then click on Launch Instance. Now that we have our instance launched, then we can go to where the instance is. So we have our instance running, which is still coming up. So we need to wait for it to come up. But if you already have an instance running, you can use the one that you already have before. But the one we create now is coming up, is still pending. So we need to give it some time so that it can fully load. And before you can start using it, ensure that the status check is of 2 of 2. And it should be showing something like this: 2 of 2 check passes. This is just to make sure that the server that your system is running on and the Linux and your system, both of them are working fine. So now that we have our system running, the next thing is to connect to the server from our local system. So from this server now, all I just need to copy from here is the IP address of the server. So when you configure your own system, it's going to be having a public IP address. So just copy the public IP address and use the public IP address. Click on the server 2, then copy the public IP address. Then this is the address that we need to connect to the server. Go to the Visual Studio Code. From the Visual Studio Code, the first thing we need to do is to create a file, is to create a folder on our desktop. And this is where we're going to be putting all the code that we're going to be running in this class and all the other files that we're going to be creating. this is the file. I mean, this is the folder that we're going to be keeping them. So the first thing for me is to create a folder. And you can run a command to create a folder, or you can just go to your desktop and create a folder. So I will be creating the folder on my desktop. And I'm going to call this folder YouTube, just YouTube folder. Then go back to my Visual Studio Code. Then from my Visual Studio Code now, I need to open the folder that I created on my desktop by going to File, Open Folder. Then the folder is on my download. So I need to go to, on my desktop. So I need to go to my desktop, then select the folder that I created, which is YouTube folder. Then open it. Now that I open the YouTube folder on my desktop in my terminal, so I need to open the terminal again from this YouTube folder. So I have the YouTube folder showing on my Visual Studio Code, and I also have my terminal working. So the next thing now is to, if you are not already inside the YouTube folder, if your own is not showing that the YouTube folder or the folder that you created is showing here, if it wasn't shown like that, then you can just run some command and go inside that folder. Just make sure that you are inside this folder. And the way to be inside this folder is to make sure that before you open the terminal, first go inside the folder first. Once you get inside the folder and you can see the folder, here, it is until that time you now go to open the terminal, so that automatically the terminal will be showing that you are already inside the folder. Now that you are inside the folder, the next thing to do is to run the command to connect to the server that you created on AWS accounts. So to connect to that account, I'm going to do SSH-I. Then the key that we created is downloaded on our desktop. So the first thing that we might want to do before we SSH into it is to first move the key that we downloaded, which is in our desktop, is to move it inside this YouTube folder. One way to do this is to go to my download folder and copy the key. Go to my download folder and copy the key that I generated, which is this YouTube key, and just copy it or cut it and move and go to your desktop and paste it in the YouTube folder that you created. Then go back to your YouTube and go back to your terminal. So automatically you'll be seeing the key here. Now we can use this key to connect to our server. So to use the key to connect to our server, just run SSH-I, then specify the name of the key. Make sure that this key is spelled correct, the way it is on your the way it is here. Make sure this is how you spell the name of the key. So I'm going to type the name of the key exactly how I'm seeing it here. Now that I have the name of the key exactly, I'm seeing it there. Okay, it's not correct. Now that I have the name of the key exactly how it's as it is written here, the next thing is to specify the username of the server that I want to connect to. When you launch your server, AWS or every cloud provider, wherever you launch the server, they automatically create a specific user for you. So get the name of the user. For me, the name of the user for the instance that I created is called EC2. So use the EC2 user and specify the IP address of the server. So I'm going to go back to my AWS account and copy the IP address of the server. Now that I've copied the IP address of the server, then I need to paste it immediately at the back of the add, the EC2 user adds, then the IP address. So just make sure that the command is like this. You have SSH-I, the name of the key that you want to use to connect to the server, which is the key that you created when you created the server, and then the name of the user that you want to connect as, then the name of the IP address of the server. So I'm going to click enter. Then it asks me that, are you sure you want to connect? Are you sure you want to continue connecting? I'll say yes. Now I'm already connected to the server. So now this is the server that anything I'm doing now, I'll be doing it on the server that we created on the AWS account. So we are now on the server, or in the server that we created on the AWS account. So the first thing I did was to clear my screen because the screen looked a little bit rough. So I first cleared the screen with clear. Now that I'm on the server, so it is now time for us to start the Linux training proper. So the first thing I want to introduce to you on the Linux training is the basic commands. And these are the commands that you use on a day-to-day basis. If you are working in IT, either as a cloud security engineer, DevOps, or cloud engineer, you are going to be using this command every day. So the first command is called pwd. The command pwd helps you to display your current working directory. If I go back to my desktop, to my Visual Studio Code, this place where I am now, if you can see that there is a cursor, there is this white cursor that is here. It specifies the beginning. When I start typing something, whatever I'm typing will be showing here. So I need to understand whatever I'm typing, where am I typing in, or what folders am I currently in. But before I tell you the kind of folder or where currently you are, I want you to understand this line. The first line here is the user that is connected to the server. So in a company, multiple users can connect to a single server, unlike your own personal computer, that it is only you or your friends or family that stays with you that are connected to it. And even if they want to use the computer, they use it as if it is you that is using the computer. But in real world or in enterprise, every users of the computer have to be authenticated. If you are using a computer, you have to provide your information, your identity, that you are the one using the computer. So no two users share the same username. So the first name you are seeing here is the name of who is actually using the computer. While the second numbers and IP number that you are seeing here, this second line, it's telling you the name of the computer that you are using. So the first one here is your name, while the second one is specifying the computer that you are using. While this third one is specifying your space on that computer. Like every computer now, if you like your own personal computer, if you create another user so that somebody else can log into your user apart from you, then that person has his own separate space and you too have your own separate space. So whatever the person creates will be on their own space, while whatever you create will be on your own space. It's just like having multiple people living in the same house, but they have their different room. The same thing with the server. If you have multiple people that can log into the server, everybody needs to have their own personal space where they can keep things without having other people to interfere. So this sign that you are seeing here is called a TIDA sign, which simply means that this is the space, the home directory of this person. It says the home directory of this person, and it's the same thing as /home/EC2 user. So this is just a symbol or a sign that is used to represent this particular command. So if this person, EC2 user, anything you create on this system as EC2 user, without you changing your location, it will be stored inside this folder, because this folder is represented with the symbol, with the sign that you are seeing here, these symbols represent home/home/EC2 user, which means that whatever this person is creating, without it, if it does not change the folder, it will be stored inside this specific area or this specific folder. So if you are not sure of that specific folder or the current folder that you are currently in, you can type the pwd. It's going to tell you inside which specific folder are you. It will tell you inside which specific folder are you. So when I press the pwd, now it's showing me that, hey, I am inside this specific folder. If there is another user on this server, then I can also check where this user name is. But every user, whenever you connect to a server that you have access to, is going to log you directly inside your own space, which is always be on the home/EC2 user. The next command to look at is the ls. The ls just simply tells us what are the items inside this folder. If you do ls and if you do not add anything in front of it, it's going to show you what are the items inside this folder. It's just like when we created a folder on our desktop and we put a file inside the folder. So if we do ls inside this folder, it is going to be showing us that we have a key inside there. It will show us that we have a key inside this folder. So for instance now, let me create another file here. I'm going to create the a file and same folder inside the YouTube folder. I'm just going to call it demo file. Then I'm going to put that file in the folder that I created on my desktop, which is the YouTube folder. So I'm going to put a very basic text, such as then I'm going to save this file and close it. If I go back to my Linux operating system, because I have this file on my desktop and it's showing here, if I go back to my desktop, which is on my system, and I do ls, I will be able to see this file here. But don't forget that what you are seeing here is on your local desktop, while where we have currently is on the server, which is the AWS server. So if you want to create a file on the server, because this is not a graphical user interface server, we are not seeing the desktop as we are seeing the desktop on my local system. But you can still create a file using command on the server. So to create a command or to create a file using command on the server, the command is called touch. So when you specify touch and you specify the name of the file, for instance, if you want to create this kind of file on our server, we're going to just write touch, then specify demo file dot text. So this command will create the same file name that we have here. But remember, this file is created on my local laptop, while currently this terminal you are seeing is a replication of our virtual server that is located in the AWS cloud. So now, if I press enter now, it's going to create this file on the server. So now that I created the file on the server, if it doesn't give me any error, that means it has actually created the file on the server. So if I want to see this file on my desktop, I will just click on a folder to see the contents of that folder. But on the server, I cannot double click because I'm not seeing it. I don't have the graphical user interface. The only thing I can do is to do ls. So the ls will show me the contents of the folder. So now I save a file inside this folder that you are seeing here. So now that I do ls, it's showing me the contents of the folder. So ls show me the contents of the folder. Then if I want to create another folder inside the same folder, I'll just make sure that I am currently inside the folder where I want to create the new folder. So to create a folder, it's called mkdir. This will create a folder, and the name of the folder is what you append in front of the mkdir. So let's say we want to create a folder called YouTube folder 3. Then we click enter. This will create a folder for us. So if I want to see both the file and the folder that I've created earlier, I just need to do ls, and this will show me the file name and the folder. So what this simply means is that I have two items inside my current home directory. Remember to check your current home directory where you are working currently is pwd. So what this simply means is that I have these two folders inside my current working directory, which is ec2-user. So those are the first few commands that you want to know if you want to use Linux command to work, or if you are working with Linux command. So now the next command that we're going to be learning is called cd. cd is used to go from one folder to another. It's used to navigate folders. So for instance, if I want to move from my current working directory and I want to move into another folder, then I will do cd, then specify the name of the folder that I want to move into. But I have to be sure that the folder that I want to move inside is currently accessible. What I mean by accessible is that the current folder, if I want to move inside a folder, I should be able to see the folder in my current working directory. So if I want to move inside this YouTube, the first thing I need to do is to do ls. Can I see the folder that I want to move inside? If I can see that folder, then I can do cd, then specify the name of the folder. So this will now make me to go inside that folder. Moving inside a folder is just as if you are on your desktop, then you click a folder, and inside that folder, if there is another folder inside the folder, then when you click or double click that same folder and it opens again, so that is what you are moving from one folder to the other. So now that we have moved inside our YouTube folder 3, then we can now also create file or folder inside this folder. So for instance, if I want to create another folder or another file inside my YouTube folder 3, I will just do touch to create a file, touch file2.txt. It's going to create a file for me. If I want to create a folder, I'm going to do mkdir. I can call this nested folder. So I have file2 and nested folder inside my YouTube 3 folder directory. So if I want to see those files and folder that I created, I just need to do ls, and it's going to show me the file and the folder that I just created. So now I have a file and a folder. Now, what if I'm done creating something, or I'm done working with these YouTube 3 folders. How do I get out of that YouTube 3 folder? If you are doing this on your local system, you can just, if you have the file open, you can just cancel it by closing it here. But with command line, you just need to do cd, then you go out of that folder. If you want to go out of a folder, it's either you cd into another folder, or you cd back into the folder from which you go inside the folder that you are currently in. For instance, if you, now that we are inside this YouTube folder, the folder that we are currently in before we cd inside this folder is called ec2 user. That is the folder that we are currently in, that we are in before we cd, or before we moved inside this folder. But now that we moved inside this folder, for us to move out of this folder is to either go inside this particular folder from where we moved in, or to move into another folder. So if you want to go out from this current folder, all you just need to do is to do cd, then dot dot. This dot dot is going to move you back into the parent folder. It will move you back into the parent folder of this YouTube folder. So if you want to, if you are not sure which folder is this YouTube folder currently inside, then what you need to do is to just do pwd. So pwd will tell you which folder is the, inside which folder is the YouTube dash folder 3 currently inside. So the YouTube folder, the YouTube dash folder 3 is currently inside the ec2 dash user. So if I'm currently, now that I'm currently inside this YouTube folder, if I do cd dot dot, it's going to move me out of this folder, and it's going to move me back into the parent folder. So the parent folder now will now be the current working directory. So how do you know that if it's moved, this will now change? This is supposed to change to ec2 dash user. But because this file, this folder is the current, is the working directory of the login user. So instead of giving us this full path, it's going to give us a tida, which is going to give us this, because we are currently inside this particular folder. So now let's cd out from there. If you do cd dot dot, it's going to take us from here, it's going to put us here. But it's not showing this directly because there is a symbol that is used to represent the current working directory of the login, a symbol that is used to represent the home directory of the login user is this tilde. So instead of specifying this, it just use the symbol directly. So now that we have this symbol, then if you do pwd, it's going to show us that yes, this is where we are. So these 4 commands, pwd, ls, cd, make a directory, and touch. These are the commands that we look at today, and these are the basic commands that you use every day if you are working with Linux. Either you are a DevOps, you are a cloud engineer, or you are a solution engineer, whatever one you are, you're going to be working with all of these commands a lot. So in order to recap, to check the current working directory, that is inside which folder are you currently in, you do pwd. So this will tell you you are inside this particular folder. If you want to move out from the folder that you are currently in, you want to move it into another folder, just do cd. Then you have two options. It's either you move to the parent working directory or you move into another folder entirely. If you want to move into another folder, just make sure that the folder that you are moving into is inside the folder that you are currently in. If I do pwd again to check something, so if I want to move inside a folder, let's say for instance, I want to move inside this nested folder, then I have to make sure that this nested folder is directly inside this place if I want to use cd nested folder. But if I do cd nested folder, but the nested folder is not directly inside my current working directory, it's going to give me error message, and that is what we are seeing here. Because this nested folder is not directly inside this place, which is where I am currently. So my screen is clustered, so I need to clear it. So if I do pwd, this is where I am. To check what are the folder inside this specific folder, I just need to do ls. So you can now see that the nested folder that I wanted to go inside is not directly inside this folder. So if I want to move outside of my current working directory, I want to move into another folder, the only folder I can move into that automatically is this, without adding any other thing. But I can still move into other folder. I just need to specify the full path of where that folder is located. And I'm going to be talking about this tomorrow. But for today, just make it simple. The only folder that you can move inside is the folder that you can currently see. If you want to use just the name of the folder. If you are moving inside a folder that you are not currently see, you're going to get error. So again, if I do cd nested folder, because I'm not seeing the nested folder, I'm going to get an error message here. But if I do cd YouTube folder, because I can currently see the YouTube folder inside the folder I'm currently in, I won't get any error. Then I can see the inside that folder. Now, if I do ls, the nested folder is inside the YouTube 3, inside the YouTube folder 3. So from here now, I can now do YouTube nested folder, because I can now see that folder now that I've changed the folder that I was initially working with. So if I do ls, you will see that it has a nested folder. So that is why I can move directly inside the folder. But if I want to move back to the parent folder, I need to do ... Then this will take me back to the parent folder. What if I want to move into the nested folder from the parent folder? If I do pwd now, this is the folder that I am currently in. So what if I want to move inside the nested folder, knowing fully well that the nested folder is not directly inside this folder? Then what I need to do is to first specify the folder that is inside this folder. Then I can now jump inside the folder inside that folder. So here I can do cd, then first jump inside the YouTube folder. Then now that I'm inside the YouTube folder, then I can specify the nested folder. So with this, I can combine multiple file or multiple commands together to get to where I want to be. So here, it will not give me any error because I'm inside that folder. So I'm going to stop the lecture here today. Then I'm going to continue from here tomorrow. Do you guys have questions for me? If you have a question for me, you can put it down in the chat. Yeah, we're going to upload the picture, I mean the video today. All right. Thank you guys for watching. Let's meet the same time tomorrow. Bye, guys.